Hello, 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 and welcome to Web Relates. Today we're looking at the Am I the Butthole subreddit. Our first story is by Repulsive Spring. Am I the butthole for telling my daughter to hit below the belt? Relevant background. My, 43 female, daughter Becky, 10 years old, has struggled with leukemia since she was 5 years old. Finally nearing remission, we hope. Yay! As a side effect of the chemo, she lost her hair. She's a bit self-conscious and found a wig to be very uncomfortable. But everyone at her school is quite supportive. She usually wears a baseball hat or beanie. She's never run into any bullying because of this until now. My daughter wanted to go to YMCA day camp this summer, and her doctor cleared her. Of course, I signed her up. Unfortunately, there's a clique of girls that have been straight up vile. My daughter came home crying the first day because the queen of this clique, we'll call her Jenny, gave her the nickname Lex, as in Lex Luthor. It's comic book week, and wouldn't stop when my daughter asked her to. I went to the counselor the next morning and pretty much asked, "What the hell?" He said that he talked with Jenny and the clique about it and they'll stop. They didn't. It just got worse. They started a game of steal Jenny's hat and keep it away from her. Counselor was some feckless teenage dude that did screw all to stop this. My daughter wanted to try and stay in the camp because she was making friends there who actually stood up for her. I decided to arm her with a bit of secret adult information. Jenny is the daughter of a couple going through a nasty public divorce. I told my daughter that the next time Jenny harasses her, she should tell Jenny that she is the reason for her parents' divorce, and that they both want to get rid of her. Probably not true, but certainly a devastating insult to a tween. This worked quite well. Becky hit Jenny with divorce slam yesterday, and it was super effective. Becky was beaming when I picked her up. Jenny was inconsolable, and the counselor looked like he had just come back from Nam. He asked for a sit-down with us, and told me I shouldn't encourage my daughter to insult other campers. He said that Jenny was just stressed from the divorce, and was misplacing her anger on Becky. I said that my daughter is not going to be a punching bag, and I will continue to teach and encourage her to hit back. Am I the butthole? No, OP is not the butthole. Yeah, it sucks, but every parent has the right to protect their child, as their first priority. Also, I'm sure leukemia is plenty stressful, so that counselor's argument is quite narrow-minded. Our next story is from Paternity Throw RA. Am I the butthole for insulting my husband after he asked for a paternity test and suggested that I cheated? I, 25 female, just had my first child with my husband, 29 male, of 4 years. He is white, and I'm mixed race, but very white passing. I was raised by my adoptive parents. However, I have reconnected with my biological paternal family. My biological mother was white, and I look a lot like her. My biological father, whom I'll call my AITAH, is Inuit, and we look very little alike, but we are getting closer emotionally. My son looks so much like my AITAH, and I cried when I saw him for the first time. He has darker skin than my husband and I, but he has my husband's eyes and nose. After he was born, my husband was cold and distant. He wouldn't hold our son. He wouldn't show me affection. Even when my AITAH came over, and I took a bunch of pictures of grandfather and grandson, my husband refused to connect with our son. He demanded a paternity test a few weeks ago. I was upset, but complied. He is the father, as I knew he was. I told him that I was a prime example of not looking like my biological father, and I felt he was an idiot for suggesting I was cheating. He shot back with, "Well, how do I know the man you bring around is actually your dad and not your affair partner?" Yes, he insinuated I lied about my AITAH being my dad, and that I was sleeping with him. I regret saying it because I had promised to leave it behind, but I said, "Well, then say hello to Sarah for me." Sarah is the woman my husband had an affair with 2 years ago. He broke it off and we reconciled, but I feel like it was rich of him to accuse me of cheating, and he was the one who cheated in the first place. He called me a butthole for bringing it up, and now we're not speaking, and I've moved into the nursery. I'm considering divorce, but also thinking about my words, which were hurtful and uncalled for. Am I the butthole? Again, no, OP is not the butthole. Also, he cheated in the first place. It's a related topic. It wouldn't exactly say it's uncalled for. Someone in the comments actually brought up that he's probably projecting. Our next story is by Significant Air. Am I the butthole for not making my wife choose between me and her affair partner? As soon as I found out, I moved out and filed for divorce. Counseling is not on the table. An open relationship is out. I'm not interested in having anything to do with her again. She tried saying that if I asked, she would choose me. Gross. I don't want her. Some of our friends think that I should have fought for our marriage. I offered to sleep with them or their wives to see how they feel about the situation then. No one has taken me up on my kind and Christian offer. I am paying my half of the lease on the apartment. There are 4 months left. In the meantime, I'm going to work and spending my time off at all-inclusive resorts. It's cheaper than getting an apartment for myself. Am I the butthole for not trying to save our marriage? Baku Ski has a comment with a nice point. She tried saying that if I asked, she would choose me. That happened at the wedding. She lied. Good riddance. Trust in yourself and move on. You're a strong individual to take the steps you're doing. You are worth so much more than BS like this in your life. Easiest not the butthole ever. I would have done the same thing. If that makes me a butthole, then so be it. It's unforgivable to me. Our next story is by Constellationist. Am I the butthole for telling my brother-in-law and his wife that I don't want to follow their birth plan? So I, 34 female, am a surrogate for my brother-in-law Simon, 39 male, and his wife Michelle, 38 female. Simon and Michelle have struggled with infertility for years. They've tried IVF and even surrogacy before, but the person changed her mind at the last second. They have outwardly shown their jealousy of my husband James, 34 male, and me for having children, especially as only one of them was planned, and our oldest was born when we were 16. They came to me last year and begged me to be their surrogate. I had doubts, as did my husband, but I felt bad for them and decided to go through with it. James supported my decision, and has acted like he did with my previous pregnancies, sweet and caring. Simon and Michelle, on the other hand, are very controlling. They made up meal plans for me, and I'm taking all these supplements as well as attending multiple classes. When I told them I knew what to do during pregnancy, they didn't listen and said to me that just because I was pregnant 4 times doesn't mean I'm an expert. I gave up trying to dissuade them, as I knew nothing would work. We started going over the birth plan earlier this week, and it caused a huge argument. They wanted me to do an unmedicated water birth, and I flat out refused. For my second pregnancy, I didn't have enough time for any pain relief, and the pain was horrific. I have quite a high pain tolerance, but this experience was awful, and I never wanted to do that again. Kudos to anyone who has unmedicated births. As for the water birth, I don't like the idea of being submerged in water with blood, other fluids, and possibly poop. They weren't happy about this. They said that this was their baby and they should decide how they were born. I retorted and said, this is my body, and I should decide how I want to push out a human that I'm so generously carrying for them. A lot of shouting happened, and I started to get overwhelmed very quickly. I started crying, and Michelle rolled her eyes and told me to grow up. James told her to shut up, which started Simon off, and it was just a mess. James and I left the house, and I was crying the whole way home, and regretting ever agreeing to be their surrogate. It took James and me a few days to calm down. During those days, we didn't have any contact with Simon or Michelle. Simon and Michelle called James' parents and complained to them about what happened, so they called us, and we explained our side of the story. They were shocked at what happened and said they were fully on our side and that they'd talk with Simon and Michelle. I'm due in 2 weeks, and I'm so nervous. A part of me doesn't want them there, but I know they have to be, seeing as it's their child. James disagrees. He said that he'll have them kicked out if they do anything to upset or stress me out. Even my oldest agrees with him, and he won't even be in the room. I sort of do feel like a butthole, but I don't know. It's a hard time right now. I think this last one is an interesting one. While I do agree that OP is probably not the butthole in the situation, especially agency over your own body plus experience of previous births, all makes sense. But I also understand the other side. These people have struggled with pregnancy. They've always wanted it. So of course they're going to be a little bit controlling, just as a side effect of wanting to be involved. It's just a pity a lot of these issues couldn't have been planned or resolved before the surrogacy happened. Okay, everyone, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe, of course. Comment down your thoughts on some of these stories below. I'm actually quite curious. And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.